Most students come here with the intention to stay, but you didn't.
I have really warm memories of that. That's why I kind of like proud that I was there. There are like things they call mountains, but I'm just not saying that it's not
Let's be
real.
honest, right? Let's be
Yeah.
honest.
At some point, I felt like I'm kind of intoxicated with English.
How do you go from a degree in physics to a job in IT?
I'll just talk about two interview processes because I got job offer from both of them, and they were completely different.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to your Canadian Buddies channel. This is a space for current and new international students where we talk about settling in Canada, being successful academically, and this is where we share tips from fellow international students and new immigrants. My name is Tanya, and our today's guest is a good friend of mine. He came to Canada as an international student, got his master's degree, and now he's on a postgraduate work permit. Welcome, Dima, and thanks for joining.
Okay, thank you for having me.
To get us started, you came to Canada as an international student. So could you please talk to me about the school selection process and why you chose this specific school?
Right. So my bachelor's is in particle physics, and there's actually few schools in the world that do the things I wanted to do. One of them was in Alberta, and University of Alberta. So I was applying to several countries, and my intention was to exactly studying what I was doing before. So I didn't really think about the country I was going to move in. It was mostly about the university and the supervisor I was choosing. So in the University of Alberta, they were doing elementary particle physics that I decided to pursue. And I reached out to my supervisor first, talked to him, and it went really well. I liked his approach. I liked the connection we had. And I decided to apply there. And I chose the school because I thought it would be the best option for my future academic career.
So you connected with your supervisor even before you applied for the program.
Yeah, actually, I should have looked up the supervisor beforehand, and I should have reached him beforehand. It would be the best strategy. But I just applied to the university because for masters, they don't require you to have a supervisor beforehand. And basically, when I was writing my supportive letter, I specified the fields that I'm interested in. And after I applied in several weeks, my prospective supervisor at that moment reached out to me, and we had an interview with him before I got accepted. And that was the point when I decided that I want to study with him, because I also had other options, but it's not relevant now, I guess.
So was the interview a part of the application process?
The interview for masters is not officially part of the application process. They don't require you to have supervisor, and technically you can study first year without even having a supervisor. Again, this is a unique experience which is related exactly to my field of physics. And after the first year, you can choose the supervisor and yada, yada, yada. But the point is, unofficially, you have to talk to your supervisor, because professors are the one who approve your application and decide if they're gonna take you as a student to the university or not. Since my program was a thesis based, they are interested in the outcome of the research, and they want to know that you are capable of it.
Awesome. How long did the application process take?
So in total, since I applied to my offer letter, I think it was like 2 months.
That's actually pretty fast.
Yes, because I had experience with other schools which take half a year, 8 months to assess your application.
I wanted to ask you about how the educational system in your home country was different from what they're doing in Canada. What were the most noticeable differences, or were there any differences?
Okay, sometimes it's really hard to compare because bachelor's and then master's, it's different way of teaching, different way of learning. Since bachelor's is just purely classes, and then master's is more related to research. Although there are course-based master's program, so again, may not be applicable there. In masters, they give you much more freedom. and classes are much smaller in general because your subjects are super specified, like it's related to exactly what you're doing, and you're taking classes, you choose classes yourself. So I had to take only 4 classes, and then only one of them was compulsory. So the others are totally up to me what I want to study and what was going to be useful for me. So this free will, free choice was really nice, and it's different from what is happening back home. Yeah, I think there is not that much different anymore because again, most of my studies were research, and research is basically going about the same. It's I would say in the University of Alberta, research is pretty high level, so that was also different because the professors are more demanding and we have more collaborators and the responsibilities.
You mentioned that you got a job as was it a teaching assistant, right?
Yes, teaching
Mhm.
assistant, also research assistant. It depends on the term and how lucky I was. I was pretty lucky. Mostly I was working as a research assistant,
Mhm.
and I was as a TA only for 1 term.
What is the difference?
So teaching assistantship is when you help professors to teach. You can be conducting labs. You can be doing the assignments, like checking assignments or maybe conducting the tests. Or you can just help students with office hours. And research assistant is when you actually doing research for someone who hired you. It might be your supervisor, which is the most common. Sometimes it may be some other professor you can work in the other lab. And what you do is again strictly related to the job you apply to, kind of.
And how did you get this job?
Okay, so in the offer letter, I had 2 letters. First was a offer of financial support, and the second was the offer actually to study at the university. And so financial support grants me some total minimum that university will provide to me. But for that minimum, I have to work, as I mentioned, as TA or RA if I don't have external scholarships. So basically, they grant me that I will have a job for at least 2 years, and that's how I got it. So they are promising you to do that.
Oh, this is pretty cool. Do you know if for any other programs they offer this kind of support? And do you have to apply or are you assessed automatically?
So it depends on the university. It depends. The rules for applications are super different for any university, so you need to check this for yourself. In my case, it was automatic, and my department gives this financial support almost to everyone. But I know other departments have this competitive system. Some of the departments don't really have much of the financial support. Again, it depends on the financial situation departments, the grants they have, and many other factors. So,
So we got quite a bit of inside info so far. Tell me about the school life. What did you like the most about your university?
so to start with, I moved to Canada during the COVID pandemic. So my first year was basically just a lockdown year. I was spending a lot of time at home, and there was not much stuff happening. So I cannot say it was a school life. Mostly, I was just trying to embrace the life in Canada, Alberta culture, which means going outside a lot, doing some fun, active stuff. Um, Again, it was pretty specific for Edmonton because, in my opinion, there's not much to do in Edmonton unless you go doing sports. Mountains, some kind of moving around, cycling, doing inline skating in the winter, just skates, and all the things. But again, I don't think you can call it a school life. Basically, I was just studying the first year online mostly and was not even attending university. I didn't have even office assigned, although it's like usually grad students have their offices because again of COVID restrictions. So I would say my actual student life started maybe uh, in the summer after my first year, and I finally met a lot of people. I met my lab mates, I met my office mates, and then you just I don't know. it's hard to emphasize something because it's just you talk to people, you're spending time with other students, and it's so much different from just spending time with coworkers just because they are younger and they are more free, they don't have that much responsibilities. Didn't Nothing changed too much from my bachelor's times, I would say.
And then when the restrictions were lifted, you were able to come to the university more freely and you started having in-person courses. Is that why you were able to build more connections?
I think so. About the in-person classes, I was almost not taking anything in person since I finished all my classes in the first year. So I remember I decided to go and take a French course just because I wanted to experience it in person and also talk to other people, find someone from, I don't know, just find other people from humanities and see how it goes. Yeah, so this French course in person was super fun. And I would say the professor was one of the best professors I ever had. And yeah, it was just fun. Uh,
What kind of
yeah.
a professor would meet the description of the best professor ever, in your opinion?
Well, one of them. I cannot say that he's just top one or something. He knows how to teach his lesson. I know that I just felt like I was progressing a lot, even like in 3 months. Also, he was engaging and he was paying attention to what people say, and he knows how to manage class. So I think that's what you expect from professor. I don't know if he's a good person or not. I'm just saying that he's a good professor.
Right. Could you please talk to me about what surprised you the most about Canada? Was there anything that you didn't expect?
Yeah, I think surprise is gonna be a bad surprise because I think the first thing first I noticed was amount of homeless people on the street.
Hmm.
It's just overwhelmingly high. I didn't expect this at all. And say it was the most impressive thing. A lot of people say cold because I was studying in Edmonton, which is super cold place. But for me, it was okay. I'm not sure if it was super bad for me. Um, there are many small things that I don't even recall right now, just because I don't know. I just got used to them. I think, yeah, like amounts of homeless people on the streets. That's something that I cannot forget. It was just super,
Hmm.
super bad feeling.
Anything about Canadian culture, the way people interact with each other, small talk?
Yeah, I was going to say this small talk because in European culture there's no such a thing, and people are just more. I cannot say sincere because I don't think that Canadians are not sincere. It's more about the way they communicate. This is like super different. And I'm not sure if I mastered it even now and if I want to do that because this is, I don't know, this is hard to describe, hard
Yeah,
to
it
talk
was
about it.
pretty weird for me as well. It took me a lot of time to get used to this because people come up to you and they start talking about random things. I was like, why are you even talking to me? Who are you? And when you're in an elevator and this just to break this awkward silence, people could start talking to you, and then it becomes even more awkward because you don't understand why. Why is this happening? Just leave me alone. I'm getting ready for my day at work.
Well, if you don't want to have small talks, just don't look friendly. That's it. They're not gonna talk to you.
How does that work?
I don't know. Just don't smile. Like people, like a lot of people, they just look friendly. I don't know if they are friendly actually, but they at least look friendly. They like smile to you. They don't like they say nice stuff and whatnot. I think it's nice.
What was the most stressful moment you experienced in Canada?
Okay, there are two times when I felt super stressed. First time, it was maybe 2 days after I came to Canada. Okay, to came to Canada, I had to quarantine for 14 days. I would say it was the second day after I escaped quarantine. That's what it was. I was living for 3 days in my supervisor's house. And while I was trying to figure out my things to like get documents and find a place to live and sign a lease, and it was I just didn't expect that finding a place to live would be so hard. Like the houses I was seeing and the places with my budget were like super bad. They were with random people, random roommates, not that clean, and all the other things. Um, and I remember I was laying in the room on the very top of the building. It was quite cold because, again, it was on the very top and the house was pretty old. So it just the way the house worked. Under like two blankets, looking at the ceiling and asking myself like, why did I come here? I feel like there is nothing
Mhm.
to do for me here. And yeah, it was the only moment in my life that I thought like this. And I'm glad it happened like in 2 days. Maybe it's good, but that time it was stressful, if you know what I mean.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the second time was later, I think maybe half a year after I moved, when at some point I felt like I'm kind of intoxicated with English, with the culture, with the language. I just can't hear it anymore. I just close everything in my room and just trying to listen to music from my home country, talk to people from my home country. It was just one evening when I felt that I cannot speak English anymore. It was just alien to me, right? But I
Mhm.
think after that, it was getting better. It's just the
Mhm.
moment when my brain cracked and I finally started like feeling the English language and culture.
Mhm. Yeah, I heard people saying that it has to get worse before it gets better.
Yes.
But did talking to your friends from your home country help with this?
So as I say, that crisis happened only once, one evening, right? And that time I didn't, I just wanted to hear it, right? So it's not like something that you maybe need to do continuously, or I mean, of course
Mhm.
you need to continue support the relationship if you want. But what I mean is that evening I just couldn't hear any English anymore. I just felt like if I do, I would just gone crazy. Need to take care of yourself because homesickness is a big thing and you can actually get depressed and everything. So just
Mhm.
don't forget about your mental health.
Mhm. Could you please talk to me about feeling homesick? How bad the feeling was, and did you feel homesick from time to time, or constantly every day, and the feeling was growing? Like, how did this unfold for you?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question because I think many people experience in different way. And for me personally, it was like waves of this. And it was like periodical, maybe like once or twice a month at the beginning when I just moved, when I was thinking like, oh, I don't really want to go home. I want to like see my friends, want to be at the places I used to be before.
Mm-hmm.
And later with the time, the frequency just dropped. Like first it was like maybe once in a 2 week, then it's once per month, and then it's like once per 3 months. And I don't even really recognize when was the last time actually it happened right now because you're just getting used to it. And I haven't been home for a long, long time, so that's probably it. Um, Last time when everything changed, again, that moment, that evening when I was sick of English and I
Mm-hmm.
was just almost having breakdown. After that, it started becoming better and better, and I think that was the moment when everything changed. But you know what I mean? I think, well, time definitely. Uh, Time and also finding friends. It helps a lot talking to people here and having some connections, making some connections here. And I mean like meaningful connections when you actually feel that you are at home exactly here. Making your home more comfortable so you want to come back home. I mean, where you're living in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that makes you feel better where you are right now, like getting better, maybe getting better job, having better relationship at work, something like this. For me, it was I think for me personally it was not like super hard because when I moved to Canada, I never been before, right? But then since I moved, I never had job that I don't want to go back home. So that helped me a lot. Like I want to visit, right? But I don't want to live there anymore.
Oh, thank you for sharing this. Could you please tell me on the positive side?
Sure.
Could you please could you please tell me what was the most memorable moment that you had in Canada?
Oh, that's I'm not gonna lie. It's not like I'm showing off, but there are so many that it's really hard to choose like one very, very specific. I remember, okay, let's start from the very first. I think the very first one was when I finally went to the mountains and I saw the mountains for the first time. Because it was first time in my life seeing Rockies, and I felt like I'm just I don't know, I'm like a character from a movie because before I only saw it on TV and internet, but never in person, and that was a majestic experience.
Anything memorable connected with your school, your supervisor?
So basically, every moment of my life is kind of related to university. That's why I think I have really warm memories of that. That's why I kind of like proud that I was there. I put this
Yeah.
here. So yeah, it's hard to find anything specific. Like basically everything that was happening with me in the city somehow related to it. So
Where do you like it more? Did you like it more in Edmonton or in Ottawa, where you currently live?
oh, okay. So I've been here so far like around 3 months, I guess, not that long. I would say back to our question about homesickness. Here in Ottawa, I kind of feel like I'm homesick, but I feel it regarding Edmonton.
Oh, wow.
There are like things that I'm missing. I'm definitely missing mountains because there's nothing here. There are like things they call mountains, but I'm just not saying that it's not
Let's be
real.
honest, right?
Let's be,
Let's be
yeah.
honest.
Exactly. And also, I don't have that much connections here yet, right? So I think I need to give it a time to give a honest estimate, right? And I need to leave the whole year because in the winter, again, you don't have many options what to do outside, for example. So I'll keep it without any comparison so far. Let's see.
No
Let's see.
comment so far, right?
Yeah.
So, do you think that homesickness is connected to your personal connection to the place?
Yeah, I think this is it. Yeah, definitely. Basically, this just the memories and the lifestyle you got used to, right? And I would say for some reason when I moved to Edmonton, I didn't feel that I was missing my friends, I was missing my family, right? But I didn't miss the place when I was living. And here in Ottawa, now I feel that I'm missing the place I was living to because it's like so many memories are
Oh,
related exactly
really?
to the place. And again, like Edmonton mountains and stuff. So again, I don't think, just to make a comment, I don't think that Edmonton is like the best place to live and moreover the best place to move to Canada right away. Although it's debatable, maybe we'll talk about it later. But it's just something that I made it, like I made it special for myself, I think.
Now let's talk about your professional journey. And
Okay.
I was wondering, so you finished your master's degree, and I remember you talking about taking a PhD program. Does it mean that you were considering an academic career?
Oh yes, I definitely was, and this was my first priority. That's why I moved to Canada. And actually, this is one of the thoughts that helped me to keep it going because I was not in, my intention was not to immigrate at the first place, right? And then when I
Mm-hmm.
moved to Canada, I just felt comfortable and decided that I want to stay, right? Um,
Ah,
and it was
interesting. This is different for most students. Most students come here with the intention to stay, but you didn't.
Yes, I was not honestly like when I moved to Canada, I even didn't think that I really want to stay in Canada, for example. I was thinking maybe I should try something else and my academic career in like in my field of particle physics actually allows me to do that because as they said, there are like few places in the world that doing this. Also, there are not that many students who are doing the thing. So it's easy to move between countries and my plan was to go to Australia, do my PhD there considering that there are many, there is a good university that could have I don't know, that I wanted to study in, let's say this way. But then I just, with the recession that happening, I went to this, basically, let's be honest, I went to the stores and I see the prices rising so much. And when I pursue an academic career, you don't have much of income. And it was just, you know, be honest, you are scared that you will not be able to sustain your life here. And I don't have
Mhm.
people who could support me. So I should have taken care of myself, first of all. Now that's something that actually should be considered when you move to Canada, and thinking that, because here, uh, it's like capitalism as you imagine it, right? So the government doesn't support poor people that much, not immigrants, definitely. That's what I say. So you have to be prepared to take care of yourself, and no one really will help you with that, not that much. The other thing is that in my home country, the war has started, and I also had to think about my family, what was happening to them, and if I would be able to support them. So I think these were like two key factors for me trying to find a job.
Mhm. Could you please talk to me about the process of looking for a job? What were you looking for?
All right. So again, I think it really depends on what kind of job you're looking for, and application process for different jobs are super different. But what I've done is I basically sit down and I realized what kind of skills I got and what I learned in my master's, what I have on my hands right now. Then I don't remember if I actually wrote it down, but I had a list of something that I think is valuable for industry. And I decided to just try to go with the skills that are most related, or I feel the most confident in. Because in my field, you develop many, many, many different skills for research. So for me, it was programming. So I decided to find a job as a software engineer or software developer.
How do you go from a degree in physics to a job in IT? How is it? Because for me, I'm very far from the industry,
Yeah.
but it feels absolutely disconnected to me.
So physics is super broad term, right? You can do many different things. Let's not go into details, but you can do purely theoretical physics, which is basically calculations mostly, maybe, and like physics, or you can do more hands-on and work in the lab, working with hardware, working with programming. And what I was doing is most like kind of between, maybe a little bit into hands-on, and you acquire a lot of skills with that, right? You acquire, the most important skill is to learn stuff which is not taught to you, uh, because no one teaches me how to program, no one teaches me how to work with hardware. They taught me only physics because that was my program. But then when you do research, it's expected you know stuff, right? And I think that's something that people in industry value. Yeah, I think that's it. And as I told you, I was more to hands-on part, and which means I knew how to program a little. Moreover, I was just enjoying this. I was taking some additional classes during my undergrad, so that's why I thought it fits me the most. I didn't even have to learn much for that. I had to prepare for interview, but I didn't have to take additional courses or any boot camps or whatever to be, how to say that, to be competent enough to pretend for entry level position.
Mhm. So what mattered in the end of the day was the skills that you had, right? Not the work experience, not the education.
I would argue here because people in Canada, they look, first of all, they look for a Canadian working experience. This is the most valuable thing you can have. Then I think they look for just any work experience, and then they look into your education. If honestly, if I didn't have my master's here, I probably wouldn't be able to get entry level job without any work experience. That's like
Mhm.
100%. Plus, the companies that I had interviews with, they valued my master's research experience because I had like doing things right. I was taking few classes, and then mostly I was doing work in a lab, and they kind of counted as a working experience.
Could you please share a little bit about the interview process and the questions that they ask?
So first of all, the hardest part I think was to get an interview. They, when you send your resume or trying to contact the company or whatever, most of the time you just don't hear back or hear back rejection right away or something like that. Then I would say I made maybe 40 to 50 applications, and 4 or 5 reached back to me.
Mm-hmm.
And when reach back, I mean the first screening selection is basically HR that calling you and asking, like, trying to understand if you actually the same person, if you can talk, if you can communicate, and some like basic stuff. They asking your experience and whatnot. And that was pretty easy. Luckily, I consider myself a sane person, so from the first round of interview, it went pretty smooth. They just call you or they text you, they ask like basic questions, and then they think if you want to schedule the other interview with like more proper interview, let's say this way. And I'll just talk about two interview processes because I got job offer from both of them, and they were completely different in a way that one of them was a startup company and the other is a big corporation, and it like basically differs at this level at least. So at the startup company, I first of all talked to CEO right away, and it was about 30-40 minute talk, although it was planned to be like 15 minutes, and where he was first like asking about my background and all this stuff. Plus he also graduated, he was doing research at the University of Alberta. He did his PhD, I think, and also doing the continued research. So he I would say that also influenced his decision to consider my application, because like kind of connection, he knows what's going on at the university, and
Mm-hmm.
he is also from academia. He values this experience, and we were talking about his product and about what are my goals and all these things. So mostly it was not technical at all. It was mostly about the experiences and just my goals and all the things, right? After that, he recommended me to go for a technical interview when I had I think 4, maybe 3 people asking me technical questions related to my field. Excuse me. It was all about programming. There is nothing like today. It's just specific questions for hard skills. And after I completed that one, they scheduled the third interview, which was with CTO, I think. I don't know. This abbreviation is kind of confusing to me. And he had the behavioral interview conducted, which was about 50-60 minutes talk about everything. And I felt like I was talking to my therapist when I was talking to him. The questions he was asking, it was really deep, and I'm sure he was also trying to see if I can behave well in a stressful situation. He was trying to create those situations, and um, there are many articles on how to go through this interview and things, but in my case, I didn't really need to lie, or lie. I would say like say the correct things. Again, I was lucky enough to have really diverse experience during my research, so I had just to be honest most of the time. And there are maybe few questions that were tricky, but I read them before on the internet, so I was a little bit prepared.
Mhm.
But again, I was lucky enough with this interview because I didn't really have to make up many things, right? I was just genuine and I was telling about it. And eventually, after we finished, in like a couple of days, they asked me for my details and stuff. They were like making an offer for that. Right. The second was with the big corporate company, and you need to understand it's not like big tech like Google or Netflix. It's actually a big product company. So, and they just have software development division, which is huge, although it's like hundreds of developers, maybe 1,000. And first a recruiter reached back to me though, not like they found me. And they have another company for hiring people. They have like I don't really know how to call them, like recruiting agency, let's say. And so why it was helpful and good to me, because they also kind of interested into finding people who can they sell, because it's their money to hire you, right? So they're not that picky in what's what they're trying to sell. So I talked to the recruiter, and first she was asking me questions about just general questions again. There's nothing special. She asked me a little bit more about the stuff that I put on my resume, and she was trying to get sure that I actually true, like as far as she can know, because again, she's not like a tech person, right? And then they asked me to complete a. Oh, one thing to mention, they also asked me what I expect from my job, right? Because they have like several clients, so they actually asked me if I considering this, and that, right?
Interesting.
They sent me a test for my technology. So my main technology was C++, so they sent me a test for that. And they told me they kind of gave me a hint that you better score like that, and then this is good. And you like better try to do this. I completed the test. I did pretty well. So I felt that I did pretty well because they were pretty excited about me reaching back to them again. So I think I did well. And they actually scheduled a interview with tech people from the company I'll be working for, and I was interested in. So then I had an interview with this company. I think it was actually my very first interview that I had, and there was like 3 people there, and it was like pre-screening. It was super intimidating because first they started from easy questions that I expected to have as an entry level, and they were like going up and up and up. And some of them I was a little bit confused. I was not really expecting that, and I didn't know how to answer. And after the interview, I was kind of sad because I thought I failed. But then they reached back like in 20 minutes and they scheduled another one. So now I understand that it was like a pre-screening. They were trying to understand what I could do and what kind of role they could put me in, right? And the other interview, the last one, uh, we had like 6 people probably in the call, and there were people from US. I know people from Canada because international company, and they were actually asking me questions that I expected to hear for entry level, more or less. And there was no really any problem with that. Everything that I read on the internet and the questions I mean the problems I solved before while preparing for the interviews, they were all there. I didn't really have any problems with that. And after that interview, they were like, yeah, sure. There's like we can count your work experience like from masters, so you're good to go. And in like a couple of weeks, I got official offer, and that's it. Yeah.
Wow, what a process. Do you find such a long process intimidating at all?
I would say this is not that long, honestly. If you want to go and work for big companies like Google, Meta now, or I don't know, Uber, whatever. The selection process is crazy. Sometimes they invite you to come to see in person, right? They of course pay for everything, but still you need to spend like day or 2 days completing interviews the whole day. So it's like 4 to 5 to 6 interviews. It's crazy, I agree. So 3 interviews was fine. That's okay.
Okay, so 3 interviews is normal.
3 interviews is chill.
What was the position you applied for? You mentioned that it was an entry level position. What's the position name?
Yeah, so I didn't want to do internship or anything else just because I studied much enough. I think that I could have done actually junior level. So um, first of all, the company that is startup I applied to, I just basically texted the company, emailed the company about their openings because they have like openings, but they didn't have entry level. They had like senior engineers and stuff, but they were hiring. And I just emailed them my resume, and surprisingly, they emailed me back and they were interested because of my background and what they do. It was kind of intersecting, so they were like, "Yeah, we can do that probably." And there was no specific position until I got my offer. It was a junior software developer there.
Mhm.
The other one, which I'm working right now in a big company, they don't have these titles for some internal reasons, let's say. It's just a way to manage people, I think. And I'm just a software developer. So it's hard to say exactly what it is because they don't really put labels. But I think for responsibilities and stuff, we can understand that it's more or less entry level.
Oh, this is an awesome story. Is there anything else you would like to share about the process?
Um, no, I really think it's pretty much it. So maybe when I was sending applications, it was mostly Indeed. I would say it was most effective way to me, although many people say it's not a great way, but again, it worked for me. Then LinkedIn, but on LinkedIn, I had like no success. I don't know why, but didn't work for me. And then also looking up local companies which I could be interested in and just contact them directly. Most of them never replied, but as you can see, one worked well, and it was really good offer, I would say. And the stuff they were doing is super interesting. Is just at that moment I was looking for a little bit something different in like personally, I would say.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing. What would be your top three tips for international students?
Okay, first of all, if you're doing master's thesis based, I would say research the university and research the supervisors and contact them beforehand. And they're interested in getting students, right? They will not fail you if you don't know something or you ask some questions. It's a really nice way to actually get to know what you're gonna do and what are the capabilities of this person, because they also can offer you some financial support if they have those money. So don't hesitate and yeah, write to professors. The other thing, uh, I would say, yes, regarding the social connection and stuff, don't be scared to build the social network contacts. It helps a lot. And I was mentioning before that many people just don't want to lose connection with home, but finding new people here doesn't mean that you lose connection with home, I think. So you should not be worried about that. And it really helps with mental health. Um, Third tip, I don't know, just enjoy. Try to enjoy where you're staying. Because again, as I said before, I think when I just moved, I thought Edmonton is like terrible place to live, but then I learned many ways to enjoy the city as well. So that's completely be open-minded to that. Don't be fixed on some kind of thing that you imagine. Just try to go with the flow and find your place. I would say I got lucky enough with my financial support and also just personal support from my supervisor and many advice and stuff. Um, I would say if you come here, you just better have some extra money because it's really important. You have so much spending at the very beginning, and I didn't expect it to be so expensive. Again, it depends from what country you're coming from, but it's better to have some financial I don't know, like a emergency and security fund that you have when you come. It's it makes your life much easier, I'd say.
Did you have
uh,
any expenses you were not prepared to?
I would say I knew that I had to pay for housing, I had to pay for food and stuff and stuff and stuff. I didn't expect it to be that much. I didn't expect it that much and that hard to, for example, housing. Housing is just now it's crazy, right? So yeah. And I feel like there are so many things that I felt uncomfortable about. Just now I forgot what exactly was that. So just be prepared to be uncomfortable for some time. That's definitely true.
Mhm. Yeah, I think students really need to hear that.
Yeah, I think something that helped me is that again, I didn't come with some expectations about my life, right? I just expected to have a good education, a good research, and that actually what happened, luckily. They didn't have any expectations except maybe like stereotypes about Canada. Like as I said, it was super unexpected to see homeless people because I thought that Canada has. I mean, doesn't mean that Canada doesn't have, but I thought that Canada has really high standards of living and they taking care of like everyone, but it's not particularly true.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. So, a couple of bonus questions for
Okay.
people to get to know you better. Pineapples or no pineapples on pizza?
Oh my God. It depends on the pizza, but I don't mind. Yes, pineapple's good.
Would you rather give up air conditioning and heating for the rest of your life or give up internet for the rest of your life?
If it's not work related, then internet, yes. But it just all my job is related to the internet, so probably, yeah, I would say internet if I had to choose like that. Yeah.
Interesting to hear from an IT person.
I mean, internet brings a lot of stress in life. I think if I didn't have internet connection, my life actually would be better in a way.
Interesting. And the final question, what
Yeah.
is your superpower?
No, I don't have one. I just live, I guess. That's like my superpower is a will to survive.
All right, yeah, that would be pretty much it. Thank you so much for finding the time and joining the conversation. I'm sure that everything you shared will be highly appreciated by international students.
Yeah, thank you for having me.